Well, we don't get a lot of snow down here in southeast Oklahoma anymore, but we do get ice storms, and we are right in the middle of an ice storm right now, and I'm on the back part of my property here in southern Hughes County, and the roads were too iced over to get into work today, which I work about 30 miles from here. So I thought, well, I just got in a new report from a fella, so I'm gonna go outside and make a report. And it is about 18 degrees here, so I won't be staying out here a long time. But anyway, just received on email this report. The incident happened on May 2nd, 2018, and this is sent to me by a gentleman named Dale Boswell, and he gave me permission to use his name and to share his report. And I'll just read his introduction here. My hands don't freeze. Said, "Hello, Mr. David. I'm a retired country music singer from Alabama. I've been thinking about sending my report to someone to read on a podcast, and today I saw you on a Bigfoot Odyssey episode, and I said, that's the fellow I need to send this to, so here it is. I tried to be as detailed as possible. Feel free to call me or contact me with any questions or concerns you may have. Thanks, Dale Boswell." And with that being said, I'll say another thank you to Carrie Arnold and the crew at Bigfoot Odyssey for giving me that little extra exposure. I'll let the wind die down a little bit. So anyway, this is the report that Dale sent me, and it's very interesting. All of these reports that I get, we get just a few more pieces of the puzzle of the behavior of these creatures, and Dale, he made some interesting points here. And he said this, he said, May 2nd, 2018 is a day that I won't soon forget. It was on that morning that I would witness a phantom-like creature that to this day I have no rational explanation as to what it was. A Bigfoot, a spook, a dogman, a ghost, a spirit, a witch. He said, I ain't got a clue. But I do know that as a result of this incident, I have about 3 or 4 seconds of eyewitness video tattooed onto my noggin that rewinds and plays every time I look towards or even think about that section of the woods. He said, that morning, while sipping on a cup of coffee, I'd walked out onto my back porch. I saw a beautiful red fox snooping around the field behind my house. I thought I would try to capture it on film, so with cell phone in hand, I set my coffee cup down and off I went. Being as stealthy as possible, I followed the fox through the woods for a short distance until it took off running down a trail on the other side of my neighbor's property, which is leased out for hunting. I lost sight of it, so I stopped at the barbed wire boundary fence, slipped my cell phone into my pocket, crossed my arms, and stood there admiring the gorgeous morning. Normally, when I go into the woods, I'm not very stealthy, but this particular morning, I was being as quiet as possible in hopes of getting the fox on film. Well, suddenly, to my left, I saw something moving really fast out from the bush. I'm not a good judge of distance, but I would say it was about 150 feet away or so. For just a few seconds, I watched a solid black bipedal figure gliding along a sunlit trail faster and smoother than any critter is supposed to go on 2 legs. It was just far enough away that I could not make out any clear detail other than its side profile, which again was solid black. It appeared to be at least man-sized in height, maybe a bit taller. It was slender and tall-waisted with short legs. It was leaned forward at a 15 or 20 degree angle, similar to that of a skier going downhill. But this was on fairly level ground. The head and/or hair was tilted abnormally backwards and looked rather large as compared to the rest of its body. Now, when I say gliding, if you've ever seen a behind-the-scenes film showing how they mount a camera or something onto a rail so it will move faster and smoothly over rough terrain, that's what it looked like to me, except there was not a rail. At first I thought it may have been an airplane or a big bird casting a shadow on the trail. I looked up and around and saw nothing in the sky, and besides, this thing was definitely solid because it didn't flow among the trees, up and down and in and out like a shadow would have. Bear with me, my fingers are about frozen here as I turn these pages. And going on, then he says, now this is the crazy part. All of a sudden, and I mean within an instant, I became very disoriented and weak. Why, I don't know. Although excited, I wasn't feeling frightened or scared, but I felt like I was supposed to be, if that makes any sense. I knew I was well within walking distance of my house, but it seemed like 100 miles away, and I wasn't sure if I could make it home or not. I was beginning to hyperventilate, and it felt as if all the blood went to my head and face. I felt like I was going to cry. I struggled to make sense of my phone, very confused. I didn't know if the phone was on or off or backward or upside down or what. But if at all possible, I was determined to document what was happening to me in case I passed out or something worse. As stupid as it sounds, all I could think to do at the moment was to film my reaction as to what was going on, so at least there would be real-time recording of my experience should something go wrong. It goes on to say, well, eventually I fumbled around and got the camera app turned on. I then tried to describe what I had just seen on film. I could barely talk. You would have thought I had been running or something by the way I was so out of breath, but I had not moved a muscle. I knew I needed to call my wife and head for the house, but I didn't want to panic her, and I figured a 911 call would definitely get me onto the 5th floor at the hospital, if you know what I mean. So I called a Bigfoot researcher friend of mine whom I had recently chatted with. He kept me talking and walking and breathing as I literally stumbled out of the woods back to my house. He said I almost collapsed on the living room floor. My wife thought I was having a heart attack and was about to call 911. Thank goodness she's an RN, and immediately realized that I was having an anxiety/panic attack of sorts. After a while, I caught my breath and I felt okay. A bit excited, but I felt pretty good. Again, this took place at 9:30 in the morning. And Dale, it's a couple of things me and Dale have in common. Dale's a musician. I'm a musician. His wife is an RN. My wife is an RN, and I think she could come in pretty handy out in the woods on these trips if I could talk her into going along with me. So far, I haven't had a lot of luck, but yeah, it's good to have a medical professional in the family sometimes. But anyway, he said, fortunately, I had previously scheduled a doctor's appointment for that very afternoon at 4 p.m. 7 hours later, the nurse was routinely checking my vitals at the doctor's office. After taking my weight and temperature, she took my blood pressure. She paused for a second and checked it again. Concerned, she asked, "Mr. Boswell, your blood pressure has never been this high. Are you okay?" I didn't exactly know what to tell her, but she knew I had an interest in the Bigfoot mystery, so I told her what had happened. And of course, it went onto my medical records as patient claims to have seen a Bigfoot. I guess I'm officially documented now, LOL. He goes on to say, to this day, as far as I know, my blood pressure hasn't ever peaked at those levels again. I did go back out there the next day hoping to find a track or something, but being by myself, I didn't venture too far back into the area, plus it is private property. So since then, he said, I've read several articles pertaining to something referred to as infrasound. It's a proven scientific fact that some animals have this ability and use it as a means to disable and or confuse their prey. It is theorized that Bigfoot can do this too. I often wonder if that's what had happened to me. That critter may have been after the same red fox that I was chasing. After all, it was running in the same exact direction as the fox was going. By being a bit stealthy that morning, maybe I was surprised. I had surprised it, and I got, quote, zapped. All that I do know for sure is the experience was as weird as it is unforgettable. And thank you, Dale, for sharing that report with me. And there's some very interesting things that he pointed out in that. And you probably can't tell it, but it is freezing rain a little bit right now, so I'm not going to stay out here much longer. But very interesting report, pointed out some interesting characteristics here. The infrasound thing, that's something that has been reported. I've never had anything like that happen to me when I'm out in the woods and such, but it is, however, reported more and more commonly over the last few years. So it's not something that we should ignore. So what did Dale experience here? He experienced with this, after he's seen it, disorientation. He felt physically weak, even collapsing on the floor when he got home. He experienced high blood pressure. His blood pressure spiked due to this. And also he experienced confusion. Otherwise he couldn't figure out his cell phone, which was a very common thing that I'm sure he'd messed with many times, but he felt confusion there. And also, you'll notice in his report, he felt his sense of distance was distorted as well. Why was that? Well, I mean, we don't know. He speculates maybe it has something to do with that phenomenon that's been reported called infrasound. And like I said, it hasn't happened to a whole lot of people, but it is more commonly reported, and it has over the last few years anyway. So all of these things, you know, they may not fit in the box that we perceive, but if it's something a person actually experiences, they should not hold that back. They should report that, because these are all pieces, if you will, to the puzzle that hopefully will help us better understand this mystery. So more of my thoughts, you know, Dale, he makes reference to the movement of the creature, which is a very commonly reported, makes reference to the creature gliding, leaning slightly forward at an angle, kind of like a skier going downhill. Otherwise, it's not moving up and down as it walks. It's a straight flow in the way that it moves. So anyway, that is another interesting report, and I thank Dale. And he told me this was from Alabama, by the way, and he just sent me an email a few minutes before I came out here. Said if I ever make it to Alabama, I got a steak dinner waiting on me. And I tell you, that's very tempting, Dale. But right now, what I want to have waiting for me is go to the house and get me a cup of hot coffee, because it's cold out here. But anyway, that's what I've got for this week. Again, thank you, Dale. Shout out to my friend Mark, not Mark, gosh, cold's affecting my brain out here. Cornell up at Massachusetts. He's got a new interview on his website that you ought to check out with a fella named Vandevetter down in southeast Oklahoma that's wrote a book about Bigfoot. So check out his new interview on the No Such Thing It Is Cold Out Here podcast. But anyway, that's all I got today. If you have a report that you would like to share, have me share on this channel, you can send it to me in an email at bigfootandmore@yahoo.com. That's bigfootandmore@yahoo.com. If you like what I'm doing with this channel, I encourage you to like, share, and subscribe to this channel, and stay tuned for future reports. As they come to me, I will share them with you. So until next time, you guys take care and stay warm.